More than 2.5 million people currently living in the UK could soon be at risk of losing their right to stay. Yes, you heard that right. Massive changes to the UK's immigration laws have just come into effect in June 2025, and the rules are stricter, harsher, and more unforgiving than ever before. Entire families could be torn apart, students may be sent home before completing their degrees, and hard-working professionals might suddenly find themselves unemployable overnight, simply because of one new rule. These aren't small tweaks, these are sweeping nationwide shifts that many experts say could be the most aggressive immigration crackdown in recent UK history. But who's really at risk? How do these rules work? And what can you do right now to protect your visa, your family, and your future? In this video, we're going to break down the 10 new immigration rules that are shaking the UK, and we'll do it in plain English. No confusing legal talk, just the facts you need, straight and simple. Some of these rules might not seem dangerous at first glance, but by the end of this video, you'll see why every migrant, or anyone who knows one, needs to hear this, because missing even one detail could cost you everything. Number 1. Salary threshold increase. One of the most dramatic changes in the new immigration laws is the sharp increase in the salary threshold required for skilled worker visas. Previously, most visa holders only needed to earn around £26,200 a year. That alone was already a challenge for many. But now, the UK government has raised the bar significantly to £38,700 per year. That's a jaw-dropping £12,500 increase, almost a 50% jump. This rule doesn't just affect new applicants. Even people already living and working in the UK on valid visas will have to meet this new requirement when they renew. So if your current salary is under the new threshold, you might be forced to leave, even if you've built a life here, started a family, or contributed for years. The biggest impact? It's falling hard on sectors like nursing, care work, hospitality, education, and retail, where salaries often fall well below that mark. These are the very people keeping essential services running, yet they're being priced out of staying. The Home Office claims this is about protecting the economy, but critics say it's more about reducing migration numbers, no matter the human cost. And the cost could be massive: families separated, jobs lost, and entire communities disrupted. What can you do? First, check your employment contract. If your salary is below the new threshold, talk to your HR department. Some companies may offer salary adjustments or help with legal support. And if you're unsure of your rights or next steps, seek immigration advice immediately, because this one rule, just a single number, could decide your future in the UK. And you need to be ready. Number 2. Dependent visa restrictions. If you're planning to bring your loved ones to the UK, you need to hear this. Under the new immigration rules, strict limits have been introduced on who can come as a dependent. And it's already affecting thousands of families. Previously, skilled workers and students could bring spouses and children under a dependent visa with relative ease. But as of June 2025, international students are no longer allowed to bring dependents unless they're enrolled in a PhD program or a government-sponsored course. And for skilled workers, the list of eligible family members has been narrowed, with more financial proof now required. This means if you're studying a master's degree or working a mid-level job, your spouse and children might not be allowed to join you or stay with you unless you meet stricter income, housing, and documentation demands. The emotional toll is real. Couples are being forced to live apart. Children are growing up without one parent present. And some are even pulling out of job offers or degree programs because they can't bear to leave their families behind. Officials argue that this will help reduce the strain on public services. But critics say it's punishing migrants who are doing everything right, working, studying, paying taxes, and contributing to society. So what can you do? Double-check your visa category. If you plan to bring family, speak with a licensed immigration advisor before applying. These rules are changing fast, and you don't want to get caught unprepared. What do you think about this new restriction? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this information is helpful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're breaking down all 10 rules, and you don't want to miss what's next. Number 3. Health surcharge hike. Imagine this. You're already paying rent, utilities, food, travel, and now, just to stay in the UK, you're being asked to pay more than double for healthcare. This year, the immigration health surcharge, a fee required from most visa applicants, has soared. The price? £1,035 per person per year. For a family of four, that's over £4,000 up front, just to access the NHS like any British resident. It's not optional, it's mandatory, and if you don't pay it, your visa gets rejected. End of story. For years, migrants paid this fee with little pushback, considering it a necessary step. But now even professionals, doctors, engineers, teachers, are rethinking their decision to live in the UK. It's not just expensive, it's exhausting. Especially when you're also paying taxes and national insurance on top. Some have described it as a paywall to healthcare. Others see it as a message. You're welcome to help run the country, but only if you can afford the toll. And the hike didn't come quietly. There was little warning, little explanation, and almost no public discussion. Just a sudden spike that left people scrambling to find thousands of extra pounds they hadn't budgeted for. The biggest concern? There's no income-based relief. Whether you make £40,000 or £14,000, you pay the same. It hits the lowest earners the hardest, those already trying to stretch every pound. And here's the kicker. You pay it before you even step into the UK. It's a cost of entry, a gate fee, and if you're renewing your visa, get ready to pay it all over again. The surcharge may seem like a number on paper, but for many, it's the difference between staying or giving up. Number 4. Shorter visa validity periods. Here's something that's quietly flying under the radar, but could have major consequences. The UK has now reduced the validity period of several visa categories, meaning that many migrants will have to renew their visas more frequently than before. Take the skilled worker visa. It used to last up to 5 years. Now, some workers are being issued visas that expire in just 2 or even 1 year, depending on the employer's sponsorship agreement or job classification. On paper, this might seem like a harmless administrative change, but in practice, it means more fees, more paperwork, and more uncertainty. Every renewal comes with new costs. Application fees, legal fees, document verification, and often another round of the immigration health surcharge. More importantly, it creates a system where people feel they're never fully secure. Just settled in? Good, now start preparing for your next renewal. It also gives employers more leverage. If your visa is up for renewal every 12 to 24 months, you may be less likely to ask for a raise or challenge unfair treatment. You're stuck in a cycle of dependency, trying to keep your sponsor happy to avoid disruption to your status. This shorter duration model shifts the balance of power, and not in the migrant's favor. And it's not just work visas. Some student and family visas are now being trimmed down too, making long-term planning almost impossible. Why is this happening? Officials say it's about better tracking and control, but critics argue it's about making life harder, pushing people toward voluntary exits and keeping migrant numbers in check without having to officially deport anyone. Shorter visas may sound like a bureaucratic detail, but they're changing the way migrants live, plan, and build their futures in the UK. Number 5. Mandatory local sponsorship. One of the biggest curveballs in the new immigration overhaul? Mandatory local sponsorship. As of June 2025, anyone applying for or renewing a work or student visa must now have a confirmed government-registered local sponsor. That includes employers, universities, and in some cases even local councils or organizations for specific permits. What's changed? Previously, sponsorship was limited to select visa types. Now it's nearly universal. If you don't have a sponsor, or if your sponsor loses accreditation, you can't apply. If you're already here, your visa could be cut short. The Home Office claims this is about accountability and reducing bogus applications. But in reality, it adds a huge layer of vulnerability for migrants. Your legal right to stay now hinges on an outside institution staying in compliance with constantly evolving rules. Here's where it gets messy. Smaller businesses and educational institutions are already struggling to navigate the new compliance demands. Many are pulling out of sponsorship entirely, unwilling to risk heavy fines or audits. That leaves visa holders scrambling for alternatives, Or worse, at risk of losing everything if their sponsor gets disqualified. Even more concerning, migrants have zero control over their sponsor's status. A clerical error or missed deadline by your employer could leave you out of status, not because of anything you did wrong, but because of someone else's paperwork. If you're planning to move to the UK or renew your visa, double-check your sponsor's credentials. Make sure they're still registered, compliant, and willing to take on the new responsibilities. And do it early, because one silent update to the sponsorship list could mean a forced exit. Local sponsorship is no longer just a formality, it's a high-stakes contract, and your entire future could hang in the balance. Number 6. Stricter student visa regulations. For thousands of international students, the dream of studying in the UK just got a lot more complicated. Under the new rules, student visas have become significantly harder to obtain, and even harder to keep. Let's start with the most striking change. Post-study work rights have been tightened. Previously, students had up to 2 years after graduation to find a job and apply for a new visa. That window has now shrunk to just 6 months, unless you land a high-paying job with an approved sponsor. 6 months. That's all you get to build a career, secure a sponsor, and prove your value, after possibly spending years and thousands of pounds earning your degree. But that's not all. Universities are now under pressure to limit international enrollment, especially in courses seen as low economic value. More institutions are quietly raising tuition or tightening entry requirements, all while the government hints at future caps on student numbers from specific countries. It's a chilling message. You're welcome to pay, but don't expect to stay. Even while you're still a student, the scrutiny is heavier. Regular check-ins, stricter attendance policies, and more invasive checks on financial status are now part of the norm. Miss a step. Risk losing your visa. Many students now feel like they're walking a tightrope, balancing academics, finances, and legal obligations, knowing that one misstep could send everything crashing down. So if you're planning to study in the UK, start planning early. Know the rules. Talk to your university. Ask questions. Because the system that once welcomed global talent is now asking for more proof, more money, and more reasons to let you stay. Number 7. Language proficiency upgrades. English skills have always been part of UK immigration, but now the bar is officially higher. Starting June 2025, the government has raised the minimum English language proficiency requirement for multiple visa categories, including work, student, and even family reunion applications. What does this mean in real terms? Applicants must now score higher bands in exams like IELTS or TOEFL. And not just overall, you need minimum scores in each individual section: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. The argument? Language is the key to integration. The Home Office says stronger English skills will help migrants thrive, contribute, and communicate more easily. But critics are calling this a quiet filter, a way to disqualify capable applicants without explicitly rejecting them for financial or political reasons. For many, the higher standard feels unnecessary, especially when they're already working or studying in English-speaking environments. It also creates barriers for people who have everything else lined up: the job, the qualifications, the sponsorship, but get blocked by a single low mark on a language test. And the testing process isn't cheap or stress-free. Preparing takes time, fees are high, retesting adds pressure. For some, it's now the biggest hurdle in the entire visa process. If you're applying or renewing soon, it's critical to know which test scores are accepted and what levels you need. Some visa types now demand CEFR level B2, which is a clear step up from the previous B1 standard. Our advice: don't underestimate this part. Even if you speak fluent English, practice, prepare, and consider taking mock exams before the real one. Because this isn't just a test of grammar, it's a gatekeeper. And right now, too many doors are closing on people who simply didn't see it coming. Number 8. Integration requirements. Let's talk about a word that's getting thrown around a lot lately: integration. As part of the new immigration changes, the UK government has rolled out mandatory integration requirements for many long-term visa holders, including those applying for settlement or citizenship. But what does that actually mean? It's no longer enough to just live in the UK, work a steady job, and stay out of trouble. Now, applicants must prove they've integrated into British society through things like community involvement, volunteer work, or participation in local events. And yes, there's paperwork for that too. Some are calling it a social test, not based on your background check or tax records, but on how visible and active you've been in your community. Did you attend parent-teacher meetings, join a local club, contribute to a neighborhood initiative? These things can now make or break your visa status. Critics argue this is vague, subjective, and open to abuse or bias. Who decides what counts as integrated? Is attending a charity event more valuable than running your own small business? What if your job or family obligations make it hard to show up publicly? It's a policy that sounds positive on the surface, but for many migrants, it raises more questions than answers. And while civic engagement is a great goal, tying it to immigration status feels more like a loyalty test than a practical requirement. If you're on the path to settlement, start documenting your community involvement now. Keep records, gather references, and don't assume your day-to-day contributions will speak for themselves. Because in this new system, what you do outside your job may suddenly matter just as much as what you do in it. Number 9. Criminal record expansion. This one's hitting nerves across the board, and for good reason. Under the new immigration reforms, the UK has expanded the list of criminal offences that can lead to immediate visa denial, refusal of renewal, or even deportation. What used to apply mainly to serious crimes like assault, drug trafficking, or fraud now includes lesser offences, some of which many people don't even realise are considered recordable. Here's the shocker. Things like repeated parking fines, public disorder charges, or even failure to pay TV licence fees could now flag you as unfavourable during immigration checks. Of course, immigration officers have discretion, but the default posture has shifted from assessing applicants case by case to using strict cutoffs and automatic refusals. And it's not just about convictions. Even pending investigations or cautions, which don't count as criminal records in many legal systems, can be used to block or delay your visa. This puts thousands of immigrants in a precarious position. Minor mistakes from years ago, especially for those who've been in the UK long-term, are now resurfacing with life-changing consequences. There's also concern about racial profiling and unequal enforcement, with some communities more heavily policed than others. Critics argue that this expansion weaponizes minor legal issues and creates a two-tier justice system, one for citizens and one for everyone else. If you're applying or renewing soon, it's crucial to check your record, clear any unresolved issues, and consult legal advice if needed. Even if you think it's nothing serious, because under this rule, even a small misstep in your past could cast a long shadow on your future. Number 10. Exit Incentives Program. Here's a rule that sounds helpful until you look a little closer. The UK has introduced an exit incentives program, offering cash payments to migrants who voluntarily leave the country. On paper, it's framed as a supportive option for those who no longer qualify for visas or want to return home. The payout? Between £2,000 and £5,000, depending on your immigration history, country of origin, and how quickly you agree to depart. For some, that might sound like a welcome boost, a way to start fresh elsewhere. But critics are warning that the program could be a pressure tactic in disguise. Here's why. Many of the new immigration rules, higher salary thresholds, shorter visa lengths, dependent restrictions, have left people cornered. They can't renew, they can't switch categories, and legal help is expensive or slow. The voluntary exit becomes the only door left open. And by making it seem like a choice, the government avoids using the word deportation. Supporters say the payout helps reduce strain on the asylum and visa system and gives people a dignified way out. But let's be honest, offering money when someone's been stripped of all other options isn't really a gift. It's a last resort. There's also uncertainty about how the program is administered. How long does it take to get approved? What happens if you change your mind? And what if you're being pushed into it by fear, not free will? If you're considering this route, know exactly what you're agreeing to. Get independent advice. Understand the terms. Because once you accept the payout, you may not be allowed back, at least not anytime soon. It's called an incentive, but for many, it feels more like an ultimatum. These rules aren't just policy, they're personal. If one of them affects you or someone you know, drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Check out our last video for even more must-know immigration updates. And if you found this valuable, support us by subscribing. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. We work hard to bring you the truth.